There are secrets women whisper only to each other. Secrets that can shatter the most impenetrable wall there is. The wall around a man's heart. Tonight, as he sleeps beside you, you know a distance exists. An invisible wall separating you. You've tried everything. Sweet words, loving gestures, even desperate fights. But the wall remains. Louise Hay discovered something that changed millions of lives. One phrase, just a single phrase, inspired by the words of Jesus. But beware, what I am about to reveal holds a power that can transform any man, but it can also destroy everything if used without love. Have you ever wondered why men build these walls? Why even those who claim to love you seem so distant when you need them most? The answer lies hidden in a wound every man carries. A wound so deep, they don't even know it exists. And Louise Hay, studying Christ's teachings, found the key to healing it. But first, you need to understand what really happens behind that distant gaze, behind that silence that hurts more than any words. When you were a child, you were probably taught to express your emotions, to cry when you felt pain, to ask for help when you were lost. Boys, not so much. From a young age, they learn that crying is weakness, that asking for help is shameful, that showing fear is failing as a man. Imagine carrying that for a lifetime. Imagine having to be strong, always, even when your world crumbles. Imagine never being able to say, "I'm afraid," or "I need you," without feeling like you're betraying your own nature. That's why they build walls. Not to hurt you, but to protect the wounded child living inside. The child who was taught that love is conditional, that acceptance depends on performance, that vulnerability is dangerous. Louise Hay noticed this when she started working with men in her workshops. She noticed a pattern. When she talked about self-love and emotional healing, women opened up easily. Men closed down even more. Until the day she discovered the phrase that would change everything. This phrase doesn't come from psychology textbooks. It doesn't come from the seduction techniques you find online. It comes directly from the teachings of Jesus Christ, from the one who knew the human heart better than any modern psychologist. But here's the danger. This phrase is so powerful, it can open any man's heart. It can make the most closed-off man reveal his deepest fears. It can transform a distant father into someone completely present. It can make your partner finally see you as he never has before. But with great power comes great responsibility. If you use this phrase only to manipulate, if you use it only to get what you want, if you use it without genuine love in your heart, you could destroy not only the relationship, but also his soul. Are you prepared for this responsibility? To hold the vulnerability of a man who has never shown fragility to anyone. To be the safe harbor for someone who has always been the safe harbor for others. Because once you utter these words the right way, at the right moment, there's no turning back. The wall will fall. And on the other side, you will find not the strong man you know, but the frightened boy he's hidden for decades. The phrase Louise Hay discovered works because it touches the deepest wound in a man's heart. The wound of emotional abandonment. The wound of never feeling enough. The wound of carrying the world on his shoulders without being able to share the weight with anyone. Jesus knew this. He saw beyond the masks. He saw the pain behind the strength. And his words had the power to heal not only the body, but also the most shielded soul. Think about the man you love. Right now, he might be pretending he's okay. He might be smiling at the world while inside he feels lost. He might be everyone else's hero while secretly wishing to be cared for. That's the modern male tragedy. They are taught to be providers, protectors, problem solvers, but they are never taught to be human, vulnerable, imperfect, in need of unconditional love. And that's exactly where Louise Hay's phrase finds its power. It doesn't attack the wall. It doesn't try to break it by force. It simply offers the man something he's never truly received. Permission to be human. But you need to understand how this wall was built, brick by brick, disappointment by disappointment. From the first time he cried and was called weak, from the first time he asked for help and was ignored, from the first time he showed fear and was rejected. Every emotional rejection was a new brick in the wall. Every time someone said, "Men don't cry," another layer of protection. Every time he had to be strong when he wanted to be fragile, the wall grew taller. And now this man is in your life, carrying this invisible wall, loving you but unable to show it completely, wanting to connect but not knowing how to let his guard down without feeling in danger. Louise Hay studied this for years. She realized that traditional methods didn't work with men. They didn't respond to, "Let's talk about your feelings." They didn't open up with, "Need to vent." These approaches only made the wall higher. That's when she delved into the teachings of Christ and found something revolutionary. Jesus didn't force people to open up. He created a safe space for vulnerability to happen naturally. And there was a specific phrase he used, a phrase that Louise adapted and tested with thousands of men, a phrase that works because it doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't demand anything. It simply offers something every man secretly desires. But before revealing this phrase, you need to fully understand what you're about to discover, because knowledge without wisdom is dangerous, and power without love is destructive. This phrase might make your husband cry for the first time in years. It might make your teenage son finally open up about how he really feels. It might make your father, who has always been tough, show his fragility for the first time. Are you prepared to see the man you love without his armor? To discover that behind all that strength there is someone who sometimes feels small and scared? To be the keeper of his deepest secrets? Because once you utter this phrase, you will become the safest place in the world for him. And with that comes a sacred responsibility, the responsibility of honoring the most precious trust a man can offer, his vulnerability. Louise Hay knew this. That's why she always taught this phrase along with a warning. Use it with love. Use it with patience. Use only when you're ready to receive whatever comes. Because what comes might be beautiful, but it might also be painful. It might reveal fears you never imagined. It might confess insecurities that will surprise you. It might show a fragility that will completely change how you see him. And you need to be prepared for that. To love not only the hero he tries to be, but also the imperfect man he truly is. To accept not only his strengths, but also his weaknesses. To be the place where he can stop pretending to be perfect. The phrase Louise Hay discovered is powerful because it comes from Jesus Christ, from the one who said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened," from the one who offered rest not only for the body, but for the soul. And every man is tired of having to be strong all the time, tired of carrying responsibilities alone, tired of not being able to show when he's broken inside, tired of pretending everything is okay when nothing is. This phrase is an invitation to rest, an invitation to vulnerability, an invitation to let your guard down and be truly seen and loved. But it's also a test to see if you are the safe harbor he needs. Because every man has been hurt when he showed vulnerability. Every man has had his trust betrayed when he opened his heart. Every man has been rejected when he most needed acceptance. That's why the wall exists. Not to hurt you, but to protect the most precious part of him. The part that still believes in love, but is afraid of being hurt again. And Louise Hay's phrase is the key to that locked door. But a key in the wrong hands can cause more damage than protection. That's why you need to be sure your heart is in the right place before using it. Ask yourself honestly, do you want him to open up because you truly love him and want to connect with him? Or because you want to control him? Do you want to know his vulnerability to care for it with tenderness? Or to use it against him when you're angry? Because once he lowers the wall for you, he will be completely defenseless. And at that moment, you will have the power to heal him or destroy him forever. Louise Hay always said that this phrase only works when spoken with true love, when there is genuine compassion, when there is a real desire for connection, not domination. If your heart is pure, if your intention is to love, not control, if you are ready to be the refugee he never had, then you are ready to know the phrase that can change everything. But if there is still anger, resentment, or a desire for revenge inside you, stop here. Heal your own pain first, because the wounded cannot heal the wounded, and broken hearts cannot offer safe harbor. Jesus knew something our society has forgotten. He understood that every human being, especially men, carries a silent wound, a wound that no modern therapy can touch, a wound that only unconditional love can heal. And Louise Hay, studying the scriptures, discovered that Jesus had a specific way of approaching the most closed-off men. He didn't force, he didn't invade, he didn't demand. He simply offered something they had never received. Think about how Jesus approached Peter, a rough fisherman, full of masculine pride, who would deny his master 3 times. Jesus could have confronted him, could have forced a conversation about feelings, but he didn't. He used a completely different approach, and it was exactly this approach that Louise transformed into the most powerful phrase for the male heart. But here's something that will shock you. Most women do the exact opposite of what Jesus did. They attack the wall. They try to break it down by force. They ask invasive questions. They demand emotional openness. And the more they pressure, the more the man closes himself off. Have you ever done that? Have you said things like, "Why don't you talk to me? You never show how you feel. I feel like there's a wall between us." And what happened? He closed himself off even more, didn't he? This happens because these phrases attack the wall directly. And when a man feels that his protection mechanism is being attacked, he activates defense mode. And in defense mode, emotional connection is impossible. Louise Hay's phrase works on the opposite principle. It doesn't attack the wall. It makes the wall unnecessary. And it does this using exactly the words Jesus would use. But before revealing this phrase, you need to understand something fundamental about male psychology. Something that not all therapists know. Something that can completely change how you relate to the men in your life. Every man has a wounded child inside him. A child who learned very early that love is conditional, that acceptance depends on performance, that being vulnerable is dangerous. This child was created the first time he cried, and someone said, "Boys don't cry." The first time he showed fear and was called a coward. The first time he asked for a hug and was pushed away. And this wounded child governs his adult decisions. It's the one that builds the wall. It's the one that closes off when you try to get close. It's the one that's afraid of being rejected if it shows who it really is. Louise Hay discovered that to reach the adult man, you must first reach this wounded child. And the phrase she found in the teachings of Jesus does exactly that. It speaks directly to the frightened child who lives inside every man, the child who still hopes for unconditional love, the child who wants permission to be imperfect, the child who needs a safe space to exist. But here's the real danger. Once you reach this wounded child, you will be dealing with the most sensitive part of the human being that exists. A part that has been hurt so many times that any wrong move can cause an irreversible wound. It's like holding a wounded bird in your hands. If you squeeze too hard, you'll kill it. If you're too abrupt, it will fly away and never come back. You need an almost sacred gentleness. And Louise Hay knew that. That's why she always taught this phrase accompanied by a specific protocol, a specific way to pronounce it, a specific time to use it, and above all, a specific heart to offer it. Because the phrase itself is not magic. The magic is in the intention behind it, in the energy you transmit, in the love you put into every word, Jesus healed not only with words, but with presence, with genuine compassion, with a love so pure that people felt safe to show their deepest wounds. And that's exactly what you need to offer. Not just the right words, but the right presence, the right heart, the right intention. Imagine the man you love right now. Behind that mask of strength, there's someone who feels alone. Someone carrying fears he's never confessed to anyone. Someone who sometimes feels small and inadequate, but can't show it because men can't be weak. He might be right beside you now, pretending to watch television, but inside, wrestling with anxieties you can't even imagine. He might be smiling at you, but carrying a weight that's crushing his soul. This is the masculine reality our society prefers to ignore. Men feel fear too. They feel insecure too. They need a hug too. They want to cry too. But they've been taught that it's not allowed. And Louise Hay's phrase is the permission they never received. The permission to be human. The permission to be imperfect. The permission to need love and care. But this permission only works when it comes from someone they completely trust. Someone they know won't use their vulnerability against them. Someone who will guard their secrets like a sacred treasure. Are you that person in his life? Are you the safest place in the world for him? Because if you're not, the phrase won't work. Worse than that, it could break the trust between you completely. Louise always said that before using this phrase. You need to become a refuge heart, a place where he can be completely himself without fear of judgment, where he can show his weaknesses without losing your love, where he can cry without losing your respect. And that's not achieved overnight. It's a process of showing through small, consistent actions that you're safe, that you love not only the hero he tries to be, but also the imperfect man he truly is. When Jesus approached men, he first showed unconditional love. He accepted their flaws. He forgave their mistakes. He showed that he was there not to judge, but to love. And only after establishing this emotional safety did he utter the words that opened hearts more shielded than fortresses. The phrase Louise discovered follows this pattern exactly. It first establishes emotional safety, then offers unconditional acceptance, and finally opens a sacred space for vulnerability to happen. But you need to understand that when this space opens, what comes out might surprise you. It might be anger suppressed for years. It might be deep sadness he's never expressed. It might be fears you never imagined he had. And your reaction at this moment will determine if the wall falls down forever, or if it becomes higher than ever. If you react with shock, with judgment, with attempts to fix him, the wall returns, and this time, stronger than before. But if you react with acceptance, with compassion, with unconditional love, something magical happens. The man you love transforms before your eyes, not into someone different, but into who he always was beneath the armor. Louise Hay witnessed this transformation thousands of times. Tough men who became vulnerable boys, successful executives who cried like children, absent fathers who became present for the first time. And it all started with a phrase, a simple phrase, but laden with a power that comes directly from the teachings of Christ. But remember, this power is not to be used lightly. It's a sacred gift, a divine responsibility, an opportunity to participate in the healing of the human soul. If you are ready for this responsibility, if your heart is pure, if your intention is to love and heal, not to control and manipulate, then you are ready to know the phrase that can change everything between you. The phrase is coming. The secret is about to be revealed. But always remember Louise Hay's words. With great power comes great responsibility, and the heart of a vulnerable man is the most precious thing you can receive. Prepare your heart, purify your intentions, because what you are about to discover will change not only his life, but yours too, forever. The The phrase Louise Hay discovered has only 7 words in Italian. 7 words that Jesus used when he approached the most wounded hearts. 7 words that can bring down the highest wall a man has built. But before revealing it, you need to understand exactly when and how to use it, because the moment is as important as the words. The context is as powerful as the content. Louise tested this phrase with thousands of men and discovered that there's a specific moment where it works like a master key, a moment where the masculine heart is more receptive, more vulnerable, more ready to open. This moment happens when he's going through a difficulty, when he's carrying a weight that seems too great, when you realize he's struggling alone, but can't ask for help. It could be at work, a pressure that's suffocating him. It could be family, a problem he feels he needs to solve alone. It could be internal, a battle that no one else sees, but that's destroying him from within. At this moment, the natural tendency is to offer solutions, to give advice, to try to fix the situation. But Louise discovered that this only strengthens the wall, because when you try to solve his problems, you're implicitly saying that he's not capable. And this touches the deepest wound of male pride, the wound of not being enough, of not being able to care for the people he loves, of failing as a man. Louise's phrase works because it doesn't offer solutions. It doesn't give advice. It doesn't try to fix anything. It simply offers something he's never received: permission to not be perfect. Are you ready? Here is the phrase that has changed millions of lives. Anche tu hai diritto di essere amato. You too have the right to be loved. It seems simple, doesn't it? Almost too obvious to be powerful. But that's exactly where the genius lies. Louise discovered that the deepest truths are always simple, and the most wounded hearts respond to simplicity, not complexity. But the phrase alone doesn't work miracles. It's how it's spoken that determines its power. It's the moment that's chosen. It's the intention that's behind it. When you say, Anche tu hai diritto di essere amato, you can't be speaking to the adult man. You need to be speaking to the wounded child who lives inside him, the child who always felt obligated to deserve love through performance. Your eyes need to be full of compassion. Your voice needs to be soft, almost whispered. You need to be touching him physically, a hand on his face, a hand on his chest, a hug that feels like a safe harbor. And here's the secret that Louise took years to discover. When you utter these words, he'll resist at first. He'll try to change the subject. He'll make a joke. He'll pretend he doesn't need to hear this. This resistance isn't rejection. It's fear. Fear of believing in something he's always desired, but never allowed himself to have. Fear of letting his guard down and discovering that this, too, is temporary. This is when you need to repeat the phrase, slower, softer, looking deeply into his eyes. You, too, have the right to be loved, without having to be perfect, without having to be strong all the time, without having to prove anything to anyone. And this is where the magic happens. When you add these complimentary words, you're speaking directly to all the wounds he carries, to all the demands that have been placed upon him, to all the times he felt obligated to be more than he was. Louise Hay discovered that when a man hears these words spoken with true love, something breaks inside him, a barrier he's built over decades, a limiting belief that governed his life. And what happens next might surprise you. Some men cry immediately. Others fall silent for long minutes. Some try to escape the conversation but return hours later wanting to talk. Maria, one of Louise Hay's students, shared how she used this phrase with her husband after 15 years of marriage. He was going through a crisis at work and closing himself off more and more. She tried all the traditional approaches without success. One night, finding him on the couch, clearly overwhelmed, she approached slowly. She sat beside him, placed her hand on his chest, and whispered, "You too have the right to be loved." He looked at her with surprise, And she continued, "Without having to be perfect, without having to solve everything by yourself, you too have the right to be fragile." It was the first time in 15 years that she saw him cry. And when he cried, it wasn't just about the pressures of work. It was about all the times he felt alone, about all the burdens he carried alone, about all the times he pretended to be okay when he was broken. But the most important thing wasn't the crying. It was what happened after. For the first time, he began to share his real fears, his deep insecurities, his dreams that he had buried under responsibilities. And their marriage transformed, not overnight, but gradually. He began to ask for help when he needed it. He began to show when he was sad. He began to be vulnerable without feeling like he was failing as a man. This is what happens when the wall falls. The man you know doesn't disappear. He simply becomes complete. The strength remains, but now accompanied by humanity. The leadership continues, but now with vulnerability. But remember Louise Hay's warning. This transformation only happens when the words are spoken with pure love. If there's manipulation behind it, if there's a hidden agenda, if there's an attempt at control, the phrase completely loses its power. Worse than that, if a man opens up to you and you use his vulnerability against him afterward, you will inflict a wound that may never heal. You will confirm all his fears about showing weakness, and the wall he builds afterward will be impenetrable. That's why Louise Hay always taught this phrase, along with an oath to protect the vulnerability he reveals, to honor the trust he creates, to use the power it offers only to love, never to hurt. Are you willing to take this oath? To guard as a sacred treasure everything he reveals when the walls come down? To be the safest place in the world for his most fragile part? Because once you utter, you too have the right to be loved, with the right heart, at the right moment, in the right way, you will become the keeper of his deepest secrets. And with that responsibility comes a gift, the gift of knowing the real man behind the mask, the gift of being loved not just for what you do, but for who you are, the gift of a connection that goes beyond the surface. Louise Hay always said that when a man lowers the wall for you, he's not just opening up, he's choosing you. Out of all the people in the world, he's choosing you to be his refuge, his safe harbor, his place of healing. But there's another secret that Louise Hay discovered. This phrase doesn't work just once. It needs to be repeated, because the masculine wound was built over decades. A single experience of unconditional love isn't enough to heal it completely. You need to create a new pattern. A pattern where he regularly hears that he has the right to be loved unconditionally, where he regularly feels that he is accepted with his imperfections, where he regularly experiences vulnerability without negative consequences. This may take weeks, months, even years, but each time you repeat these words with true love, another stone of the wall falls, another piece of the wounded child is healed, another step is taken toward true intimacy. And here's something that will surprise you. The more you use this phrase to heal his wound, the more your own wound will be healed too. Because when you offer unconditional love, you also receive it. When you create a safe space for vulnerability, you also benefit from that space. Louise Hay discovered that the deepest and most lasting relationships are those where both people feel safe to be imperfect, where both can show their wounds without fear of rejection, where both can be human without losing love. And it all can start with 7 simple words. You too have the right to be loved. But now you need to understand when not to use this phrase, because there's a timing for everything, and using the right words at the wrong time can be more harmful than helpful. Don't use it when he's angry. Anger is a defense mechanism. When a man is angry, he's protecting a wound, and trying to reach the wound through anger can make him feel invaded. Wait for the anger to pass. Wait for him to calm down. And then, when he's just sad or overwhelmed, Approach with these sacred words. Don't use it when you're arguing. In the middle of a fight, these words can sound like manipulation, like an attempt to win the argument through emotion, and that will destroy all the trust you're trying to build. Don't use it when he's drunk or under the influence of any substance. Vulnerability needs to be conscious to be healing, and he needs to remember the moment the next day for it to have a lasting impact. Use it when he's going through difficulties and you notice he's carrying the weight alone. Use these words when he says he's fine, but you know he's not. Use them when he's trying to be too strong for too long. Use them in moments of natural intimacy, when you're cuddling, when his head is resting on your lap, when you're whispering in the dark before sleep. Use them when he talks about pressures, responsibilities, or feeling overwhelmed. Use them when he mentions needing to be strong for everyone. Use them when he subtly shows he's tired of carrying everything alone. And always remember the tone. It's not a statement. It's almost a prayer, a blessing you're offering his soul, a sacred truth you're planting in his heart. Anche tu hai diritto di essere amato. You, too, have the right to be loved. Unconditionally, without performance, without having to earn it. Simply for existing, simply for being who you are. This is the message Jesus carried to the most wounded hearts. This is the truth Louise Hay rediscovered and shared with the world. This is the key that can unlock any wall built by fear. But always remember, the key only works when placed in the right hands. In the hands of someone who truly loves. In the hands of someone ready to cherish the treasure that will be revealed. The wall may be high. It may seem impenetrable. It may have been built over decades of pain and disappointment. But inside every man, there's still that child who believes in love, who hopes for acceptance, who longs to be seen and loved for who they truly are. And when you utter these 7 words with a heart full of love, you won't just be offering a phrase. You'll be offering healing. You'll be offering hope. You'll be offering a chance to begin again. The wounded child inside him has been waiting for these words for decades, waiting for someone to see them with compassion, to accept them with their imperfections, to love them without demanding anything in return. You can be that person. You can be the answer to the silent prayer he never uttered. You can be the beginning of the healing he didn't even know he needed. But only if your heart is in the right place, only if your intention is pure, only if you're ready to honor the sacred gift you'll receive in return. The wall might fall tonight. The key is in your hands. The words are on your tongue. The opportunity is before you. Anche tu hai diritto di essere amato. 7 words that can change 2 lives forever. Use them wisely. Use them with love. Use them with the reverence they deserve. Because in the end, we're all just wounded souls, searching for a safe harbor to exist. We're all just scared children disguised as adults. We all need to hear that we have the right to be loved exactly as we are. And maybe, just maybe, when you offer this truth to him, you'll finally receive it for yourself too. Because the love you give always returns multiplied, and the healing you offer always touches your own wound. The wall was never meant to hurt you. It was only the protection of a soul afraid of being hurt again. But true love doesn't hurt. True love heals. And today, you hold the key to that healing.